Hello, greetings, good afternoon. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. So I'm here, I'm live. Greetings, good afternoon. This your girl Tiffany. Sorry about that. Anyways, so this your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. Today's topic, I'm going to be dealing with something that's a little different from usual, right? So we have to go into this because this is the origin or part of the origin of what we call the conscious community. All right. Before there was a Bobby Hemetic, before there was a Dr. Phil Valentine, before there was a Brother Panic, before there was a A.A. Rashidi, before there was a Dr. Booker T. Coleman, before there was a Baba Heru. You see where I'm going with this? Before there was many others, before there was a Father Divine, before there was a Noble Drew Ali, before there was a Dr. Malachi Z. York, there was a man named Paschal Beverly Randolph. Paschal Beverly Randolph was a black spiritualist. And not only that, he was a Rosicrucian, which I'm going to go into what a Rosicrucian is. And he was also a sex magician. Okay? So when we talk about the origins of conscious community, we're not just going to talk about the black nationalism, the Pan-Africanism part. We got to talk about the esoteric things as well, and the metaphysic knowledge, and also the occult science, and all these different things that's taking place. So a lot of them, what's very ironic, a lot of them in the conscious community don't know they are practicing the philosophy of Rosicrucian. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know they practicing Rosicrucian. But it's very funny when you hear these very same people say that, oh, you taking in the white man's philosophy, you believe the white man this, the white man that, but you taking on the white man's practices and you have incorporated into your doctrine. And not only you took on the white man practices, but you don't realize that your origin comes from the black man who has got his inspiration from the white man as far as the occult science is concerned. So let's go into who Paschal Beverly Randolph is. Now, like I said, he's a black magician. But what's interesting about his story is the fact that he was born and raised in New York. But he did not have an easy life in New York because this was during a time period where slavery was slowly declining. And that's when the abolitionist movement was taking place heavily. He happened to grow up in the streets of New York. He was homeless. His father wasn't very active in his life, and his mother suffered from some type of mental illness. So he was pretty much running wild on his own until his sister took him in. So this man came from the streets of New York to traveling the places of England and being able to learn about the occult sciences and all of that, and being able to come back to the United States and be able to teach it to a people. So I have his book right here. So I'm gonna get some of the information out this book. Okay. I just got this book a few days ago, and I'm going to. It's called The Paschal Beverly Randolph, a 19th century Black American spiritualist, Rosicrucian, and sex magician. It was written by John Patrick Devaney. It was written in 1996. This book came out in 1996. All right. So I'm posting it up. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the biography. So now you can find multiple sources regarding to the story about Paschal. So you can find this on Wiki One. And you can also find it on blackpast.org. Okay. So under here, according to blackpast.org, this is where I'm going to start. And this is a picture of him. That's him. All right. So it says the influential 19th century spiritualist and author Paschal Beverly Randolph was born October the 8th, 1825 in New York City. According to contemporary researchers, he was likely the illegitimate son of William Randon, a white man, and Flora Clark, an African-American woman. Soon abandoned by his father and untimely death of his mother left him having to survive as best as he could as a boy on the streets of the city's notorious 5-point slum district. Now, today we call that the hood. He essentially taught himself to read and write. He also worked as a bootblack, a dyer, a barber, and a ship cabin boy and deckhand. And it says by his early 20s, Randolph, attracted to a rival of occultism, began crystallizing his own thoughts on spiritualism and the occult. He married an African-American woman known as Mary Jane, with whom he had 3 children, and then married Kate Caution, an Irish-American woman with whom he had 3 children. The large family complicated his quest for financial security. Moreover, he was quite sensitive to the fact that his light skin limit his professional mobility and forced him to reinvent himself, manufacturing an impressive but false genealogy that include prominent white Virginia colonists, Spaniards, and a queen of Madagascar in his lineage. Now, Madagascar is part of Africa. That's Africa. So, anyways, he also falsely claimed that his first wife was Native American, not African American. Handsome, learned, and well-spoken Randolph, who purported to be a medical doctor, found his stride on the lecture circuit, speaking across the United States and in Europe and the Caribbean on occult, esoteria, trance, mediumship, clairvoyance, sexual magic, medical portion, abolition of slavery, women's rights, and the importance of literacy. Okay. And also, before I continue, he spoke on this concept about free love. Now, in this book, and I'm going to get back to the article, in the chapter, he spoke about free love. All right, so here it is. I'm going to read a section in this book right here. It says, Upstate New York Spiritualism and Free Love. After leaving the sea about 1845, Randolph turned to the dyeing trade and barbering, and by the late 1840s was living in upstate New York. By 1851, he wrote from Stockbridge, a hamlet in Madison County, south of Syracuse, to the educator Horace Mann, seeking his opinion on the proper course to be pursued by the free blacks of the North towards ameliorating their own condition and on the role of education in the process. In 1852, he was working in the Utica as a barber and proclaiming himself as the barber orator. The next year, the transformation was completed as he is listed in the Utica City Directory as Dr. Paschal Beverly Randolph, clairvoyant physician and psychophenomenologist. So now, phenomenology is studying the brain size. So when you study the brain size of an individual, that's supposed to tell how intelligent they are based on the size of their skull, the shape of their skull, etc. So that was one of the oldest that was one of the oldest philosophy during that time period, that if you study the shape of somebody's skull, you can tell how intellectual they are. That is from phenomenology. Okay, that's phenomenology. However, today phenomenology is considered to be pseudo, but it's very funny because if you guys heard of the Roots and y'all go back to their album, one day album was called Phenomenology. It's funny. It was called Phenomenology. Go back and listen to their album. You'll see the album cover it has a picture of somebody's brain, and not only their brain, but the shape of their skull, etc. But yes, so phenomenology is considered as to be a pseudoscience. So today, that scientific knowledge is no longer in usage. Okay, because you can't now determine someone's intellectual ability based on the shape of their skull. It's not possible. Okay, but let me go ahead and continue. What led him to upstate New York may have been the belovedness of Gerrit Smith, his patron, a few years later. Smith was one of the richest men in America at the time and was the largest single landowner in New York State. He was also a spiritualist and a reformer and rabid abolitionist. He was justifiably implicated in John Brown's raid. One of his projects was the settling of poor urban blacks on parcels of his land. In the late 1840s, he had set aside 120,000 acres for that purpose, and Randolph may have moved originally to take part in this largesse. By 1858, Randolph was living on a parcel of farmland near Smith's home in Peterborough, New York, a farm he had bought with Smith's help, and was finding out that Smith's gifts had Ryanonian strings and condition attached. All right, excuse me. And it says, at some point in the 1850s, Randolph married Mary Jane, a woman who is described in an 1861 advertisement that touts their medicinal formulas as an Indian woman descending from a long line of native medicine men. I hope you Moors is out there looking up this guy right here. And all you indigenous folks. Anyways, the claim may have been true, but probably like Randolph's own claim, it really masked the fact that she was of African American descent. By the end of the decade, they had 3 children, Jacob, Winnie, and Cora Virginia, only the last of whom appears to have survived childhood. Randolph speaks vaguely of his daughter, little Winnie, dying of hunger because of the betrayal of a friend, but he also blamed himself and his peripatetic work in spiritualism for her death. By the 1860s, the family was in Boston, but the next year, Mary Jane at least was back in Utica, advertising for their perfected chemical treatment for nervous and sclerosis disease, which she claimed put life in hoary age and fire in the veins of ice. So at that time period, they were selling snake oils. If you guys don't know what snake oil is pseudo medicine. That's all snake oil is, pseudo medicine. So I have done a previous video about snake oil and quackery science. So you guys can go back and look into that video about the quackery science and snake oil, etc. But that's what his wife was doing, his first wife. She claimed to be an Indian woman, but she was really of African descent, right? She may have some Native American in her, but she was really of African descent. But she was using that Indian woman concept as an advertisement to sell off her brand, her products. Okay? So pretty much they were some hustlers. I mean, it wasn't taking away the fact that they did not get into, they weren't spiritual or anything like that, but they used spirituality as a hustle. I mean, let's just be very blunt about that. They use spirituality as a hustle, but the man was in tune with spiritualism, etc. So let me go to the part about free love. All right, so I'm going to read this part about free love. And it says, free love, as the term was thought of in the decades surrounding the Civil War, was a complex phenomenon in which opinions reigned all the way from emphasis on individual sovereignty and simple opposition to marriage slavery and the denial of women's rights through Forrest's theories of passional attraction, all the way to the sublime ideas on internally parasol, originally created by God as twins and destined by him only for each other. At the far end of the spectrum were the outright and frank libertines, such as Moses Hall and Stephen Pearls Andrews, both of whom as we shall see, crossed Randolph's path. Most of the free love's proponents, who were generally earnest and rather humorless reformers with inherently rigorous New England conscience and senses of morality, emphasized the feminist issues, while its opponents focused upon mate swapping and pachanos. All right, so this whole free love philosophy was basically like people being able to freelance, people to be able to express themselves, people being able to open up, no matter what your views were, no matter how you felt, whatever. It don't matter what your background is. So it was like a Unitarian type of thing. This person can have their opinion, that person can have their opinion, that person over here, we accept all people type of thing. So if we go back further, it says spiritualism also provided a special role for women and had a special attraction for them, perhaps because mediumship provided an acceptable public forum for them in a restricted world, and in trance speaking allowed untrammeled freedom, largely without accountability. Radical views on feminism, sex, and marriage reform abounded even before the appearance of spiritualism, but these doctrines were enthusiastically received within the new movement, and spiritualists by a large were agreed that marriage as a current understood was merely institutionalized oppression of women. One consequence of this was the common perception in the days before the American Civil War that free love was a necessary corollary of spiritualism. While not all spiritualists were free lovers, it is probably fair to say that most free lovers were spiritualists. The controversy over free love haunted Randolph all his life. So again, so the whole thing about free love being that you have the freedom to love who you want, to express your love. That's basically what it is, without being confined to arranged marriages or being told this is who you got married, this, that, and the other. You're just free to love. So their thing is love is freedom. So by love being freedom, you should be able to be free to love whoever you want and to express that love. That type of thing. All right. But I'm gonna get back to this book, but I want to get back to the article real fast because I want to see what the article has to say. All right, so it says, today Randolph is largely remembered for politicizing Rosicrucianism through his many books and pamphlets. Promoting the study of ancient esoteric mystical doctrine, in 1858, he founded the Fraternus Rosicrucianis, which led to the establishment in San Francisco of the nation's first Rosicrucian lodge. Among his 17 known monographs were the unveiling of What I Think of Spiritualism with medicinal formulas in 1860, in which he criticized traditional spiritualism as turning people away from the faith in Christ without giving us a substitute. Pre-Adamite man, the story of the human race from 35,000 to 100,000 years ago. And that was 1863. That trace civilized human existed far earlier than generally accepted. Love and its hidden history 1869. His best-selling work on sexual attraction and male-female relationship that went through several editions, and the fictional novel The Wonderful Story of Ravillette, which was 1863. From the 1852 to 1861, he also served as the editor of the Messenger of Light and the Journal of Progress, in which his initial literary works appeared. All right, so let's take a look at this right here. So I want to look up the Fraternitas Rosicrucius. All right, so let's look up what is the Fraternitas Rosicrucius. Okay. All right, so if you guys can see that, cool. Fraternitas Rosicrucius, which stands for Fraternity of the Rosy Cross, or FRC, is a Rosicrucian fraternal organization established in the United States by Paschal Beverly Randolph in 1856, and is the oldest Rosicrucian order founded in the U.S. They also operate Beverly Hall Corporation and the Clymer Health Center in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. Now let's look up the Beverly Hall Corporation. All right, so I'm about to show it to you guys in a minute. About to show y'all in a minute. Hold on. All right, so this is the Beverly Hall Corporation, which is operated by the fraternal order that was founded by Paschal Beverly Randolph, which is Fraternitas Rosicrucius. Okay, let's see if you guys can see that. Now it says here, what is the Beverly Hall Corporation? The Beverly Hall Corporation was formally established in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on March 21st of 1921 as a nonprofit religious and educational corporation. Its mission is to carry out the religious and administrative activities of the Fraternitas Rosicrucius and its subsidiaries, including the Church of Illumination and the Philosophical Publishing Company. The administrative function include maintenance of the building, ground, memorial garden, books, manuscripts, and properties through which the Fraternitas Rosicrucius and Church of Illumination function. The Beverly Hall Corporation is the operating entity by which the spiritual, religious, and educational function of the Grand Fraternity and the church can be advanced. All right. So as you can see, that's the building right there. So it's called the Beverly Hall Corporation. Chapel service Sunday, 11 a.m. All are welcome. All right. All right. So what else we can find about this hall? So going down, it says in 1908, Dr. Clymer purchased land in East Rock Hill Township, Pennsylvania, that was to eventually become new headquarters of the fraternity. At the same time, in 1908, the Church of Illumination was registered in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In the 1911, the chapel of the Church of Illumination was erected as the first building on the new acquired property. The chapel was completed just in time for the first convocation, which is spiritual retreat, under the, I don't know, is this some type of Greek letter or something? But it says of the priesthood order of the Fraternitia Rosicrucianism. The following year, 1912, the building known as Beverly Hall, now called the Materinga Hall, was built to provide housing for those attending yearly convocations. In addition, the Beverly Hall building remained the administrative headquarters of the fraternity and the Church of Illumination until the current office building was completed in 1938 after Mr. Matringa's transition to the soul world. The Beverly Hall building name was changed to the Matringa Hall. So now it's called the Matringa Hall, but the corporation is still around. So the Beverly Hall Corporation is still around. Okay. All right. So as you can see, this is their website, soul.org, the Fraternitia Rosicrucianism. Okay. So that's the website right there. So yeah, anyway, so he created his own fraternity order. So again, I'm gonna get into the whole Rosicrucian fraternity, etc. But yeah, that's one of the excuse me. So yeah, he founded that organization, and the Beverly Hall Corporation operates under that order. All right. So let me go back to the article. All right, so and it says the Clymer Health Center in Quakertown. So let's look at the Clymer Health Center real fast. All right, so let's see if this is the correct one. I don't know if they changed the name. It seemed like they had changed the name. This here is called this is called the Clymer Healing Center. So again, I don't know if they changed the name of it. Let me see. Let me find out location. Okay. Well, I don't think this is it. Now. Okay, well, okay, yeah, this is it. My bad. All right, so yeah, this is it. So this is Climber Healing Center, which is the address right here is on Climber Road, Quakertown, Pennsylvania. So this part of the same facility. But anyway, yeah, that's the fraternity order that is operating under. So both the Bailey Hall Corporation and the Climber Health Center is operating under the Fraternity of Rosicrucianism order. So I think this is the address. Again, I could be wrong, but right here, what you can see is the picture of the physician, Andrew Neville. So yeah, but the website is healing.org. So if you guys want to check that out. All right. All right. So anyways, let's continue. Okay. The history is the FRC's first lodge was established in San Francisco in 1861 and closed soon after. In 1871, they established another lodge in Boston, and in 1874, re-established in San Francisco. In 1875, they finally settled in Philadelphia. While Reuben Swanberg Clymer headed the order, the FRC established itself at Beverly Hall in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. So as you can see, they got the list of the grandmasters here. So being that Paschal Beverly Randolph, Freeman Benjamin Dow, Edward Holmes Brown, Reuben Swinburne Clymer, Emerson Myron Clymer, Gerald Eugene Posnecker, and William Glenn Crotch. All right, so that's the list of the Supreme Grand Masters. Again, that was his own fraternity group, fraternal order, organization, etc. So it was based off the concept of the Rosicrucian. All right. All right, then. So let's go to Black Pass. So let's go to Black Pass. All right, here I am. Okay, so anyways, it also goes down to say Randolph firmly believed that he had been white, his ideas and writings would have been more widely accepted, and that he was compelled to simply label ideas Rosicrucian in order to convey his own thoughts on a host of matters: alcoholic, destitute, resentful of the slights of white spiritualists, and distrustful of his wife. Paschal Beverly Randolph committed suicide with a revolver in the presence of a neighbor in Toledo, Ohio on July 29th, 1875 at the age 49. So, damn. So he had a very unhappy life. So after all this time, he was practicing being a spiritualist and being a sex magician and everything. He ended up being unhappy and committing suicide. That's very ironic. Very ironic. All right, so let's take a look at some of the books he has written. So I have this book right here. This book is called Sexual Magic. Sexual Magic by Paschal Beverly Randolph. Okay, so all right, so let's just start right here because I can't go any further down. But right here it says, PBR, which is Pascal, tells how the chief of the Azareth, Narek El Jebel, arrived at the Rosicrucian Third Dorm in Paris with letters of introduction, and then, recognizing Randolph's abilities and character, inviting him to come to Syria and to study with the Azareth. Randolph went to Syria and was initiated into the Azaritic Brotherhood. Upon his return to America, he established the priesthood of Eda or Eth or Eighth Eth, based on the Azaritic mysteries. Another account credits PBR with undergoing initiation in the Hemetic Brotherhood of Lesor, a secret society that H.P. Blavatsky and Carl Kilner both claim initiation into. It remains open to question, however, whether these initiations took place on the physical or the mental plane. The following is quoted from one of Randolph's last book, Ulysses. It is highly significant as the confession of a man believing himself to be at death's door concerning the origins of his teaching. Verily, nearly all that I have given as a Rosicrucianism originated in my soul, and scarce a single thought, only suggestions have I borrowed from those who in age past called themselves by that name, one which served well as a vehicle wherein to take my mental treasure to a market, which gladly opened its doors to that name, but would and did slam to its portals in the face of the 20 student of Esoterism. Precisely so was it with things purporting to be Azaritic. I had merely read Liddy's book and got hold of a new name. And again, mankind harassed for the wonderful Azareth, but incontently turned up its nose at the supposed copyists. In proof of the truth of these statements and of how I had to struggle, the world is challenged to find a line in my thoughts in the whole 4,000 books on Rosicrucianism among the brethren of that fraternity. All right, so I'm just going to stop there. Okay, so that's like the introduction to this book, and it's called Sexual Magic. And I have plenty other books, so if you guys can give me a moment. All right, so Magia Sexualis. I guess that's Latin for magical sexual magic. I guess that's Latin for sexual magic. But Anyways, sexual practices for magical power. Paschal Beverly Randolph and Maria de Naglowiska. All right. Okay. So this is what they had to say about an instrument of initiated knowledge. Paschal Beverly Randolph. Dr. Paschal Beverly Randolph is one of the great mysteries figure of the 19th century, occultism. There has been much talk about him and much heated discussion of his bizarre theories by those not initiating to them, outside his students and secret adepts, but it has never been possible to reconstruct the personality and intimate life of this American mulatto who trusted no one and constantly surrounded himself with absolutely impenetrable mystery. Silent was his emblem and the watchword that he imposed on all those who approached him. All right. So it goes on to say, still, the few details furnished by some of his friends attest that this man possessed of an unusual strength of will and tenacity, perseverance, complete missed his personal life with the work to which he had consecrated himself from his youth. He had only one goal and never withheld it from the smallest bit of his energy, to know the supreme laws of life and of the creation by means of continual study and experience. Randolph's life was indeed an effort of uninterrupted discipline with a view to becoming the instrument of initiated knowledge that he wished to be. It says Randolph was the first who fiercely raised the veil covering the nudity of Isis, and this immense courage allowed him to proudly proclaim that the key to all mysteries of the universe is to be found in sex. Sex is the greatest magical power of nature, Randolph said, and he demonstrated it to his students. So the mystery, according to Randolph, of the universe is sex. Sex is a magical power. Well, I can agree to disagree. I can agree because without sex, there will be no humanity. There will be no, there will be no population of humanity, offspring, etc. But otherwise, sex is just sex. So outside of that, sex is just sex. It's nothing, in my opinion, ain't nothing really like spectacular or magical about it. But that's what he taught during his esoteric knowledge, and to the people that was initiated in his organization, and to his students, that sex was magical. All right. So that's about it. But I really want to check out this one book that he read, which is called The Pre-Adamite. Well, obviously, I can't find the book, so I'll have to look into it later. But I'm interested into reading about the Pre-Adamite book that he has written. So, anyways, that's some information about Paschal Beverly Randolph, and it's a lot more information. It's really a lot. So if you guys have not got a chance, you guys need to check this book out from Amazon. It goes into a lot more information. I mean, it's very thick. It's over like 500 pages long. So, so far with this book, I only got to, let's see, I only got past chapter 1. So I'm on chapter 2 of this book. So that's how thick this book is. So, but I want to get into the Rosicrucianism real fast. Just talk about it briefly, okay? Okay, so, all right, here it is. Rosicrucianism. All right, so Rosicrucianism is a spiritual and cultural movement that arose in Europe in the early 17th century after the publication of several texts that purported to announce the existence of a hitherto or hitherito unknown esoteric order to the world and made seeking its knowledge attractive to many. The mysteries, the doctrine of the order is built on esoteric truth of the ancient past, which conceal from the average man, provide insight into nature, the physical universe, and the spiritual realm. The manifestos do not elaborate extensively on the matter, but clearly combine references to Kabbalah, Hemericism, alchemy, and Christian mysticism. All right. So all these things that we hear about, the combination of the mysticisms, especially within the Abrahamic religion, whether it be the Kabbalah, the Christian, the Islamic mysticism, etc., all of that combined it will fall under the category of Rosicrucianism. So the Rosicrucian, they studied all these different mysteries, different schools of thoughts, from various schools of thought. So they studied them from the esoteric standpoint versus from the actual religious text. So they tried to find the occult meanings behind all these various schools of thoughts. So not only they was dealing with the Abrahamic religion, but they also dealt with the Eastern philosophy. And when I mean Eastern philosophy, I'm talking about Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, and Taoism, etc. All those Eastern philosophy. So they also incorporate those knowledge, and also they study about the ancient Egyptian culture too. You know what I'm saying? So they was looking for the secret wisdom. All right. Now this kind of remind me of the organization, the Rosicrucian. They remind me of the Masons. They remind me of the Masons because what they both have in common is the fraternal orders. Okay. But the Masons, their main thing was more so about building. All right. So people that was carpenters, people that was construction workers, painters, electrician, etc. All of those people would be part of the Masons because that's what the Masons did. They did a lot of building. All right. So it kind of makes you wonder, what is there is a such thing as a secret society? Well, there's a possibility there is a such thing as a secret society. But what is a secret society? That's the question. What is a secret society? And what's the secret of society? Well, my answer would be, what is the secret of society? It's the civilization. So we are already the secret society. This is the secret society. The society that we currently live in is predicated upon the secret society. Basically, is the civilization. That's just the way I see it. I mean, that's just my answer today. So if anybody asks, well, what do you think what is secret society is? Or what's the secret of society? Well, the secret of society is civilization. All right. But But go ahead, let me go ahead and continue. The Rosicrucian Manifesto heralded a universal reformation of mankind through a science allegedly kept secret for decades until the intellectual climate might receive it. Controversy arose whether they were a hoax, whether the Order of the Rosy Cross existed as described in the manifestos in the manifestos, and whether the whole thing was a metaphor disguising a movement that really exists, but in different form. In 1616, Johann Valentin Andre famously designated it as a ludibrium. Now let's see, what is a ludibrium? Ludibrium is a word derived from Latin ludus, meaning a plaything or a tribal game. In Latin, ludibrium noted an object of fun and at the same time, or scorn or derision, and it also denotes a caprice game itself. Okay. All right, that's interesting. But anyway, it says some scholars of esotericism suggest that this statement was later made by Andre in order to shield himself from the wrath of the religious and political institution of the day, which were intolerant of free speech and the idea of a universal reformation, which the manifestos called for. Okay. So let's go ahead and skip down just a little bit. And it says, in his work, Salentum Pars Clamoris, 1617, the Rosicrucian Michael Meyer described Rosicrucianism as having arisen from a primordial tradition in the following statement: our origins are Egyptian, Brahmanic, derived from the mysteries of Eleusis and Samothrace, the Magi of Persia, the Pythagoreans, and the Arabs. Well, pretty interesting. And it goes on to say, by promising a spiritual transformation at a time of great turmoil, the manifestos influenced many figures to seek esoteric knowledge. 17th century occult philosophers such as Meyer, Robert Flood, and Thomas Bond interested themselves in the Rosicrucian worldview. According to the historian David Stevenson, it was influential on Freemasonry as it was emerging in Scotland. So I wonder if it has something to do with the Scottish Rite Masonry. I wonder if it has something to do with the Scottish Rite Masonry. I mean, because okay, let me go back and read that again. It says it was influential on Freemasonry as it was emerging in Scotland. So I wonder if it has something to do with the Scottish Rite. And for those of you that don't know about the Scottish Rite, they were part of the they are a Masonic organization. I don't want to get too far off the topic, but anyway, yeah, the Scottish Rite is the Freemasonry organization in Scotland. So I wonder if that's a part of the Rosicrucian, just out of curiosity. But I don't want to take up too much time trying to find that out. But that's a question that I have for my friends out there, and for those who may be in the Facebook world, about Rosicrucianism and Scottish Rite. Yeah, that's something I will have to look into later. But anyways, in later centuries, many esoteric societies have claimed to derive from the original Rosicrucians. The largest and most influential of these societies has been the Hemetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which consisted of several well-known members of society, including the British occultist Aleister Crowley. The other is Rosicrucian Order, AMORC, an international initiated fraternity which involves itself in several educational and cultural activities worldwide. It's so funny. Let's talk about Aleister Crowley for a moment. It's so funny because during the time period when people was all hooked up on the Illuminati and Freemasonry, I know many people heard about that in the early 2010s, the early 2009. One of the names that was brought up in this Illuminati conversation, right, was Aleister Crowley, because he had a saying called. There was a saying goes like this: "Do thou wilt." So when people heard "do thou wilt," they thought, "Oh, he's evil. Oh, this man's evil. This is an evil guy." And I got caught up in that too, because this was my first time getting into the concept about consciousness, etc. So one of the things that enlightened me into consciousness was the whole Illuminati, Freemasonry, etc. And I still got some information from way back when I was in college, from when I was 19 years old, looking up this type of stuff online. Okay. But anyways, yeah, that was this whole spookism about Aleister Crowley and the whole the symbols that he had, etc. And so, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and let me pull him up. Okay, so let's look at a little bit about Aleister Crowley for those who may be curious. All right. So this is Aleister Crowley. And this is what spooked a lot of people out. A lot of people were so spooked out over him. Like, everybody thought, oh, when you heard about the Illuminati, it was always associated back to him. And so, but anyways, let's look at his biography and his background. So he was born on October the 12th, 1875. He died December the 1st, 1947. He was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, painter, novelist, and mountaineer. He founded the religion of Thelema, or Thelema, identifying himself as the prophet, entrusted with gilding humanity into Aeon of Horus in the early 20th century. A prolific writer, he published widely over the course of his life. So it said he was born into a wealthy family in Royal Leamington Spa, Warwickshire. Crowley rejected his parents' fundamentalist Christian paramount brethren faith to pursue an interest in Western esotericism. He was educated at Trinity College at the University of Cambridge, where he focused his attentions on mountaineering and poetry, resulting in several publications. Some biographers allege that here he was recruited into a British intelligence agency, further suggesting that he remained a spy throughout his life. So in 1898, he joined the Esoteric Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, where he was trained in ceremonial magic by Samuel Liddell, McGregor Mathers, and Alan Bennett. Moving to a Balkenshire house by Loch Ness in Scotland, he went mountaineering in Mexico with Oscar Eichenstein before studying Hindu and Buddhist practice in India. He married Rose Edith Kelly, and in 1904 they honeymooned in Cairo, Egypt, where Crowley claimed to have been contacted by a supernatural entity named Iwas, who provided him with the Book of the Law, a sacred text that served as the basis for the Lema. Announcing the start of Aeon of Horus, the book declared that its followers should do what thou wilt and seek to align themselves with their true will through the practice of magic. Oh boy. So at the end of the day, it says after an unsuccessful attempt to climb Kulinjunga and or Kanchenjunga, whatever, and a visit to India and China, Crowley returned to Britain, where he attracted attention as a prolific author of poetry, novels, and occult literature. But anyways, not to go any further. I'm gonna have to skip some of this. But it goes down to say that Crowley gained widespread notoriety during his lifetime, being a recreational drug user, bisexual, and an individualist social critic. Crowley has remained a highly influential figure over Western esotericism and the counterculture, and continues to be considered a prophet in Thelema. He is the subject of various biographies and academic studies. So a lot of people were caught up in this whole Aleister Crowley thing, but he was just only studying esoteric knowledge. Now, it may seem like it was very evil because of how he was going about doing it, but at the end of the day, it was all esoteric. Just like people was caught up on the idea of Satanism. People was caught up on the idea of Satanism being very evil and spookism and whatnot, but if you guys look at Satanism, that kind of deals with the esoteric concept. And the people that were Satanists, they are actually atheists. They what you call radical atheists. So they use the word Satanism as a blueprint, but it was to combat against Abrahamic religion. That's all it was. It was basically to interrogate religion as a way to expose it for what it really is. So they would use like some form of scriptures, right, to expose the things that what is called evil that was taking place in the Bible, in the Quran, and stuff like that. Like what people don't realize in the Bible, it talks about sacrificing. So it talks about how different people would sacrifice animals and bring them to the altar. And then there was a story, I think it was a story about Abraham, I believe, and his wife Sarah and his mistress. So he had a child with the mistress, right? And so the story went where Abraham where Sarah and the mistress was fighting over the baby. And that's when God come in and told him that either you can split the child in half, and one can have this child and the other one can have the other part, or something in that nature. So the Bible, it speaks on sacrificing, it speaks on this whole thing about the virgin. Like if the woman is not a virgin, then that she should be basically punished. And if she is a virgin, then she's going to be worth more money, etc. So that's a form of prostitution. They should be straight up. So if you guys really read the Bible beyond the spiritual component of things, beyond this, beyond the spiritual component, and actually read it as a literature book, you will be amazed and you'll be surprised at what you actually reading. See, a lot of people don't know what they actually reading. And the same thing with the Quran. If we was actually taking the time out to actually read the Quran for what it really is, without thinking on the spiritual level, but looking at it from the literature standpoint, we will be surprised at what the hell we reading. So you're reading stories about people that was engaging into prostitution, people who were into alcohol, people who were partying all the time, people who was indulging into who had mistress who was committing adultery. It's a lot of things you're reading into. People who was into wars, who was into sacrifice and killing and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I think people would have to read these holy books from a literature standpoint and not read them as just holy books or just as spiritual books. But Satanism pretty much exposed all of that. So if you guys ever read the Satanic Bible, you'll be like, oh, they just basically atheists. That's all they are. They're basically atheists. It's nothing more than nothing less. They're They operate from an atheist standpoint. Okay. So, but anyways, let me go ahead and get back to the concept about Rosicrucianism. And then I want to share you guys some books that y'all can read more into. All right. So right here, the ancient mystical order Rosicrucians. The ancient and mystical order Rosicrucians, also known as the Rosicrucian order, is the largest Rosicrucian organization in the world. It has various lodges, chapter, and other affiliate bodies throughout the world, operating in 19 different languages. Okay. Then it says the AMORC claims an association with a perennial philosophy, often referred to as the primordial tradition. The order further states that it is heir and custodian of the Rosicrucianism of the past, thereby making it the oldest existing traditional fraternity and modern day manifestation of the Rosicrucian fraternity of old, which is believed by some to have originated in the tradition of the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. The ancient mysteries are said to have been preserved through the millennia by closed secret societies until the early years of 17th century Europe. At that point, according to the AMORC internal methodology, the time was right for the existence of this body of secret knowledge to become open, revealed to the world in the form of the Rosicrucian manifestos. Famous 17th century Rosicrucian Michael Meyer described the origins of Rosicrucianism as Egyptian Brahmanic, derived from the mysteries of Eleusis and Samothrace, the Magi of Persia, and the Pythagoreans, and the Arabs. Several of his other works also allude to the mysteries origins of the Rosicrucians. All right, so again, there's various form of Rosicrucian orders, so they operate like a fraternity order, etc. Okay. So as you can see the section about the Rosicrucian manifestos. I'm not going to really go into that. Well, you know what? Let's go into the origins. It says between 1614 and 1617, 3 anonymous manifestos were published, first in Germany, later throughout Europe. These were the Fama Fraternitatis RC, the Fame of Brotherhood of RC in 1614, and Confessio Fraternitatis, the Confession of the Brotherhood of RC 1615, and the Clerical Wedding of Christian Rosicrucian Annals 1459, 1617. The Fama Fraternities, right, presents the legend of a German doctor and mystic philosopher referred to as the Father Brother CRC, later identified in a third manifesto as Christian Rosicrucian or Rosicrucian. In the year 1378 is present as being the birth year of our Christian Father, and it is stated that he lived 106 years. After studying in the Middle East under various masters, possibly adherent to Sufism, he was unable to spread the knowledge he had acquired to prominent European scientists and philosophers. Instead, he gathered a small circle of friends, disciples, and founded the Rosicrucian order. This can be deduced to have occurred around 1407. During Rosicrucian's lifetime, the order was said to comprise no more than 8 members, each a doctorate, all bachelors of vow virginity. Each member undertook an oath to heal the sick without accepting payment, to maintain a secret fellowship, and to find a replacement for himself before he died. 3 such generations had supposedly passed between circa 1500 and circa 1600, a time when scientific, philosophical, and religious freedom had grown so that the public might benefit from the Rosicrucians' knowledge, so that they were now seeking good men. All right. So I'm just going to stop there. Again, if you guys want to check out more information, you can go on Wiki1 or Wikipedia and look up under Rosicrucianism. Okay. Okay, so you guys can look under that. All right. I got some more books that you all need to check out. So the books that I would suggest for you guys to check out when it comes down to learn about esotericism that's happening in African American community, which is called Esoterism in African American Religious Experience. It says There Is a Mystery, edited by Stephen C. Finley, Margarita Simon Gullery, and Huff R. Page Jr. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up. Okay. Anyway, so round here, it goes into part 1, 19th century. Let me see when this book was written. Because this book was written in 2015. All right. The introduction of Africana esoteric studies, mapping a new endeavor. So esoteric rise of voodoo. Then you got Paschal Beverly Randolph in the African American community, page 37. The self-divine, know ye not that ye are gods. All right, then you got part 2, etc. Then goes down to the mathematical theology. Oh, this book seemed interesting. And then it goes on to the knowledge of self and others. Okay. Show and prove. Then talks about new nation. Sacred, not secret. Wow, this is an interesting book. Very interesting. So let's look at since the topic of today is about Paschal Randolph, let's see what they talk about on page 37. And I'll make sure I post it up on Facebook for those of you that's on my friends list on Facebook. I'll make sure I post it up for you guys if you guys are interested in learning more about this. All right. So anyway, it says Paschal Beverly Randolph in the African American community by Lena Finley. And then here's the quote. It says, because I happen to differ from the Boston Standard, I am forsooth everything that is bad. Yet whatever opportunity occurs in or out of the pulpit, I shall be found doing still in my own quiet way for the race whose blood as well as that of the Anglo-Saxon fill my heart. And that was his quote. All right, so let's go down here. It says, in the eras of Civil War and Reconstruction, leaders in the African American community worked to define themselves and their race in opposition to prevalent stereotype of Black people as bestial and unrefined. Randolph's enthusiasm for florid occult mysteries and his endorsement of a robust sexuality flew in the face of their enforced allegiance to Victorian propriety, while the promotion of Christian mores by the by 19th century, Black leaders executed a necessary political function in the battle for civic equality. Now, 150 years since Reveille's initial publication, it seems high time to lift the taboos which have prevented Randolph from receiving his due as an impressive and foundational figure in African American letters. Let not be imagined that Reveille, a more crafty and complex work than Randolph's other extant novel, Tom Clark and His Wife, has been excluded from the canon of African American literature on the basis that it is lacking in style or quality. Of the four African Americans novel which preceded it, Reveille is the most ornate and erudite. Reveille is certainly the first work of science fiction by an African American author, and that it is partly autobiographical does not bar it from inclusion in the canon. Harriet Wilson Alnig, the first novel published by an African American woman, also blends the genres of fiction and autobiography. Reveille's bizarre subject matters constitutes its only deterrent to a wide readership. Then, as now, the story of a man's quest to wed a pre-Adamite woman in order to undo an ancient curse, a quest which forces him to untangle the various transmutations of a Doan vampire and the real identity of the Rosicrucian, can hardly be claimed as hallmark of 19th century Black experience. The critical disregard for Reveille articulates a bias in the African American literature canon which has survived in some form to our day. Novels which dramatize racial injustice and call for social reform are lauded and claimed as high literature, while more imaginative works by African American authors escape notice for failing to conform to an obligatory and uniform political consciousness. All right. So it says, what we follow here is a consideration of Randolph's involvement with the African American community, a background intended to serve as a counterpoint to portraits of the man, which martyred him as a beleaguered prophet of the New Age, or alternately denigrate him as a hapless huckster who fell victim to the worst delusion of his era. In this endeavor, I am somewhat answering the call put forth by Scott Thornton in Egypt Land. The only major scholarly work on Randolph places him almost exclusively in the context of white colleagues, peers, and enemies. But it makes equal sense to place him in a context of mostly Black intellectual working from within the space of Egyptology, ethnology, and abolitionist activism. Randolph was born in New York City in 1825, the son of a white father and Black mother. His father took no hands in raising him, and his mother died when he was only 5. For a time, he was cared for by his half-sister Harriet, but while still a child, he joined an ad hoc family made up of prostitutes and her boyfriend, and was forced to beg his supper from the streets. All right. So yeah, this book is very interesting. I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued by this book. So you guys need to check this out. It's called Esoterism and African American Religious Experience. So I strongly recommend you guys get this book. And I'll make sure that I post this book up for you all. So if you guys want to read it for yourself, you can do it. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff in here. It goes into not only Paschal Randolph, but it talks about the Nation of Islam, 5%, even the Moors, etc. So y'all need to check this book out if y'all really interested. All right. So that's all I have for today. And Greg put, thanks for bringing this brother to the forefront. I learned about him from an occult encyclopedia back in the days. The Occult Encyclopedia back in the days. Wow. That's wow. But to end it off, you guys, for those of you that are into the esoteric knowledge in the conscious community, this is where your origin began. See, so if it wasn't for Paschal Randolph, there wouldn't be anybody studying about the metaphysics, esoteric, ancient Egyptian philosophy, learn about the fraternal orders and all of that stuff. Because he has created that gateway for people to be able to get into spiritualism and study about Rosicrucian and sex magic and all of that great stuff. So yeah, that's where the origin began. So again, he came before there was the Moors, Moorish Science Temple America. Before there was a 5%, before there was a Nation of Islam, before there was a Father Divine, Daddy Grace, and all these various other people that many people look up to. Even before there was a Reverend Ike, it was him. It was Paschal. He was already around. So this man came around in the 1850s, in the 1860s. All right. This is before all these various schools of thought. So this is the predecessor. This individual right here, he's the predecessor of all the various schools of thought that you know of today in the conscious community. He's that predecessor. Before there was a SAR or our set society, that's the predecessor. Okay. So next time you watch Bobby Hemetic and Brother Panic and A.A. Rashidi and Dr. Phil Valentine and all these different people, make sure you think about this man right here. Make sure you guys look up Paschal Beverly Randolph. That's who you guys need to look up. Paschal Beverly Randolph. All right. So other than that, this your girl Tiffany, and I am logging off. With that being said, peace and power, elevation be to all of you. This your girl, and take it easy. Thank you guys for those of you that watch this channel. I hope you guys learned something out of this. I hope you guys gain some information out of it. So again, you guys can look up more information for yourself. A video like this will probably take about good 4 hours to do. And I don't like to do videos for that long. So let alone, I only like doing videos for past an hour. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in looking more information up, I already put the sources in the video, and I already got this book up for you. So I'll make sure I put up some more sources out there so you guys can check it out for yourself. So until then, y'all take it easy. Please be safe. Please be careful. Peace and power, elevation. This your girl Tilt. And I'm logging off. And oh, by the way, my condolences go out to Colin Powell. May he rest in peace. He just passed away today at the age of 84. So may he rest in peace. All right. Until then, that's it. Deuces.